as tenants in common by all of the unit owners together are called common elements. That's an important term. Common elements. And that's all the land, by the way, we talked about. The land, the roof, the halls, the stairs, the elevators, the swimming pool, the gym, all this stuff is owned in certain percentages by all 20 of these guys.
Yes,
those are common elements. Now, as I mentioned loosely, there's a percentage of the ownership of the common elements allocated in the declaration to each unit owner. If life were simple and all these units would be the same, it would be 5% each, but it's going to be different. Based on the number of units and based on really the size of the units and stuff like that. Okay, there are going to be two kinds of common elements that we talked about. Just for a moment. You know what? Let's say that this is this building viewed from above, okay? This is the building. There's a hole in the middle like a courtyard. Courtyard, exactly. I was trying to come up with a, what do you call it, hotel with a middle lobby. But the point is a hole in the middle with a swimming pool. And, you know, 10 units here, 10 units here. This is the front, this is the back, 10 units. Open area in the sides, gym, etc. But more importantly, I want to give you one more example. Each of these units here, out back on the courtyard, has a balcony over the courtyard. Everybody, you know, these 5 guys on the second story, 5 guys on the first story. The guys on the first story have a patio going out into here. The guy above him has a balcony above. Those may be limited common elements. That's the other type of common element. There's general common elements that everybody owns together, like we talked about the land, the swimming pool, the elevators, the balconies. I'm sorry, balconies are bad. The walkways, all hallways in a closed building, those are all general common elements. There are limited common elements that are likewise owned by everybody, but their use is limited to one unit owner. That's what a limited common element is. It's a common element, so it's owned by everybody together, but its use is limited to use by one unit owner. Balconies are the best example. You have a balcony there. The condo is all the owners own my balcony together, but I'm the only one who gets to use it. And frankly, I'm the only one who's got access to it anyway, because it comes out the back of my unit, and there's no way for everybody else to get there.
Parts of the air conditioning unit too.
Air conditioning units, depending.
Yeah,
The
like
air
the
conditioning
Wi-Fi
unit that's inside your unit, self-contained in there, is probably yours and your property, but there's one out there air conditioning the halls and the elevators and all that stuff. Yeah, that's owned in common by everybody.
Parking.
Okay, we're talking about parking.
Elevators too.
Parking, the other biggest limited common elements that everybody talks about today is assigned parking places. Not general parking places, but assigned parking places. In lots of condominiums, you have some of the headstones painted guest. Well, that's for anybody, right? Those, of course, are general common elements. Anybody can park there. But then you'll have a limited common element. This one may say, I have a 101, and a 102, and a 103, and the declaration will have said, this parking place goes with 101, this one goes with 102. And that's a limited common element. Now, here's the other thing that a common element means. It's owned by everybody together, and it's maintained by everybody splitting the cost. So this may be your parking area only because it's a limited common element assigned to you, or you may have a balcony out back. This guy has a balcony. It's maintained by the association, but its use is limited to one owner. Okay, yes, sir. gonna talk about how you pay for all those things with maintained and
Monthly
based on
maintenance.
contributions, and, yeah, exactly. But what I want you to understand is, everything is owned by everybody all together, just as much as the roof is owned by everybody. This assigned parking space is owned by everybody too, but the declaration says only this guy gets used. That makes it a limited, a common element, limited in use. Yes, sir?
Parking spots, some buildings allow you to buy a spot, do they like deed it to you, like, how does that?
The entire smorgasbord, they're all done differently.
Okay.
Sometimes they're assigned by the developer in the deed when he first deeds out. That kind of creates a nightmare, because when people start trading them, they start doing their own deeds and record them and everything. Most often, they are simply assigned by the condo association and policed by a headstone that says Unit 101. And the 101 guy gets awful mad when somebody's in his parking place. But he doesn't really own it. He just has the right to use it. Yes, sir?
I understand the parking spaces being a limited common elements, but the balcony, isn't that essentially part of the unit, or is it because it ends over the court area?
If it were a part of the unit,
Building
you'd have to pay to maintain it. And the way the declaration's set up normally is that they want the association to maintain balconies. Let me tell you a good reason why. When the steel swells and starts to crack in these condo balconies and pieces of concrete are falling off and everything, the association wants to maintain it all at the same time and keep it sound. Imagine if on the 10th floor, the guy's balcony, he didn't take care of it, and his balcony came down. Took the 9th underneath with him and the 8th, and they pancake these things, with everybody on their balconies. So the association wants to maintain balconies for safety reasons, and that's why usually it's not a part of the unit, because the unit itself, you have to maintain yourself. You have to pay to paint it, and if the plaster falls off the wall, you have to fix it. But the association wants to maintain it, just like the outside of the building. Association doesn't want this guy painting this purple, and this guy painting this green. Association wants to maintain the outside of the building at one time, and have everybody pay for it. So this, candidly, it's all part of the control. But traditionally, balconies have always been thought by developers to be a limited common element so that the association can maintain them, because the association maintains all general and limited common elements both, at everybody's expense, that we'll talk about in a second.
Except for cleaning. I gotta clean mine, but they will fix the concrete.
Okay, now, we talked loosely about there is a condo association. Yeah. The developer forms a Florida nonprofit corporation. It's always a corporation. And it's a nonprofit corporation that files an election with the IRS to be a nonprofit because they don't want to pay taxes. And we're not worried about who's shareholders here or anything. It doesn't have shares because it's a nonprofit corporation. But it has a board of directors. That board of directors elects the officers. And the association runs the condo. It makes rules. Everybody has to follow them. It says you got to be out of the swimming pool at 10 o'clock. And it hires the guy to mow all the lawn and to fix the whole roof and pave the whole parking lot. And it levies assessments on all of the unit owners to get the money to do that. Monthly assessments in some condominiums, quarterly assessments in other condos. Doesn't matter how often they bill you, the point is the association pays the bills, collects the money, pays the bills, and collects it from the unit owners. Now there are two kinds of assessments. There's regular assessments, whether people call that maintenance, but it's a lot more than maintenance. There's regular assessments that they collect for the regular recurring bills every year. And they have the right to collect a special assessment. We just got a sinkhole in the parking lot. Whoa. Everybody better kick in $1,000 because we got to fix that sinkhole. Wasn't in the budget, wasn't planned on. Special assessment for a big deal. New roof. Maybe they have, created a reserve fund out of their regular assessments to rebuild the roof? Maybe they haven't. But when the time comes to fix that roof, they gotta have the money and everybody's gotta put in. That may be a special assessment, probably is. Now, those assessments and the regular assessments, regular being quarterly, monthly maintenance, regular stuff, they are charged by the association to the unit owners, and if they are not paid, the association gets a lien on the unit. A lien, like a mortgage. And if they still aren't paid, the association can foreclose its lien and take away the title to your apartment.
Subject to.
Homestead doesn't stop that, tenants by the entirety doesn't stop that. If you bought into a condominium, you agreed. And that's conceptually what's going on here. When you
Subject to the
accept
first
a deed in a
mortgage.
condominium, you're agreeing that everything in the net declaration, I agree to. Now, you don't get to say, well, I didn't agree to fix the sinkhole, I'm not paying. Association will lien your apartment, and will foreclose it and take the title of your apartment away, and will sell it, or keep it. It may keep it and rent it out,
But that's
or it
subject
may
to.
sell it
the
to
first-
somebody else.
yes.
I'm sorry?
That's subject to the first mortgage order.
Absolutely. Yeah, I won't check. We'll talk about that in foreclosures. But yeah, they can get an interest, and it could be a seventh interest if there's 6 mortgages on there. Yeah. The point is, they get a lien, and it is not exempt from this lien under the Florida Constitution, and it can be foreclosed. Now, I'm going to shift to cooperative, to a co-op, and what is a co-op, unless anybody has a question. That was a condominium.
Yeah, I have a quick.
Yeah, go.
So how come the prices in the HOAs and all that stuff are different in different buildings? Like what's the determinant of this price?
What determines the prices?
Yeah,
Well,
because
if
some
the-
people will pay like $100.
Different amenities.
How much are you gonna charge me for your car?
Condominium association.
Yeah.
How much do you wanna charge me to sell me your car? You decide the price.
Right.
It all depends on what type of mechanical systems, elevator systems,
Yeah, I
what
mean,
type
you
of
know,
landscaping.
some condos are on the ocean, some are on the Everglades, which is gonna be worth more. Just like real estate or anything else. When the developer sells it the first time, he decides. After that, when this guy wants to sell it to this guy and wants to sell it to this guy, you decide, just like selling your house. You sell your house, you decide the price, right? This guy decides the price when he sells it. The developer decides, frankly, the developer decides, how much can I get for this? And isn't that what every seller decides? Of anything. How much can I get for this? How much will the buyers pay me for this?
No, I'm not saying about the units. I'm saying about the
Maintenance fee.
maintenance fee.
Oh, well, that's based, I'm sorry.
I'm like, I
I'm
thought I
sorry.
asked a stupid question. I'm like, well,
No, I thought you said, how do you decide what the price is?
No, the maintenance.
The
How
month
do you
of
decide
maintenance.
it? They pass a budget every year.
Okay.
They divide it by 20, and then they divide it by 12.
And if you don't pass the budget, you have an appraiser come out for end of life determination on the different items that are in the,
Just like the government budget, there are line items in every
Okay,
budget.
okay.
There's a reserve for the roof based on how many years is a roof.
Yeah, well,
But the point is,
that's
the
what's
point
gonna
is,
change, you know?
the board of directors of the condominium association decides it. And they publish a budget, and you can come to the meeting and bitch all you want to, and they'll pass the budget anyway. And then they will, like I said, they will divide it by,
Okay.
if this unit pays 5%, they will divide it by 5%, and that's how much he's paying this year. And they'll divide it either by 12 or 4, depending on whether he's paying monthly or quarterly. I apologize, I thought you were talking about, how do we decide what the price of the unit is? How do we?
No one decides
Yeah,
the
but,
price.
this is so regulated by the division in Tallahassee of the rules of their assessments and their budgets and their line item reserves, reserve for the roof based on its useful life left. When are we gonna have to, 5-year reserve maybe on the parking lot, when are we gonna have to seal coat it? You gotta pay 1/5 every year, you know, so that when, at the end of the 5th year, when it's time, we should have all that money built up that we could do it.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's it. Yes,
Can the developer be part of the association?
I'm sorry, say again?
Can the developer be part of the association or?
Can you do what to the association?
Can you
Can-
part
Part
of the
of the
association?
Or they have to assign
There's no one
on
with the association board.
Well, he gets,
If he's a
for-
unit owner.
here's how that works. He, during the year that it takes to sell all 20 of those units, he is the association.
Right.
He and his team. I
He
guess.
elects himself to run the association. And he makes all the decisions and he levies the assessments and stuff like that. Now, the minute he sells the last unit, he's out of there so fast you wouldn't believe it. He resigns from the association. He tells you 20 people, hey, you guys, you're in charge. You better elect yourselves a board, and that board better elect some officers, and I'm out of here. But he wants to run it. Any number of reasons. He wants to run it until he sold that last unit. Because he doesn't want the owners taking over that unit and making decisions until he's out. And he certainly doesn't want the association having to approve his purchasers. Which, after he's gone, you remember we said anytime you sell your unit, you gotta ask the board. The board brings your purchaser in and interviews them and checks their credit and sees whether they're gonna pay theirs. They decide whether or not you can sell your unit to that guy. The developer doesn't want that either. So the developer stays in charge of the association. He forms the association. He appoints himself as everything until he's out of there. And then it's time for the unit owners to step up and start running. And for that first year or two, once again, the department regulates what his assessments can be. The declaration has a separate section that, it's called a prospectus, that tells you as a new unit owner what you can expect the assessments to be for the next year or two. But once he's gone, the lid is off, and it's whatever you and your budget. But remember who these people are. These directors who are going to take over these units, who are going to take over the board, they're unit owners too. That's what makes it kind of difficult. When you're unhappy with something, and you go to a meeting, these are your neighbors, that are making the stupid decisions that you're not happy about.
No kids in the
But
pool
they're your
after
neighbors.
8 o'clock.
I'm sorry?
Like no kids in the pool after 8 o'clock or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, but that's where the numbers come from. I apologize for misunderstanding you. It's a budget.
Okay.
And they adopt it, just like a government adopts a budget. A corporation, they adopt a budget, and then they assess you based on your percentages. And remember that it's not gonna be 5% each. If this unit is bigger, he may pay 7%, and this little tiny efficiency, he may only pay 3%. That's how it goes.
And it's important to note that the budget is based on needs. They can't just pull the numbers out of the sky.
They're supposed to get estimates, they're supposed to use last year's numbers, they're supposed to get professionals to estimate the life of the roof and all that stuff and everything, they're supposed to. But you gotta remember, all this has to be kind of limited by, where are they gonna get the money to do all this stuff too?
Right.
Hopefully, one of the unit owners is a contractor and he's got some experience, I mean, not that he's gonna do it, but that you try to get experienced people on the board, it'd be great to have one of your insurance agent on the board, because one of the huge expenses of a condominium is insurance. You see, this building, this is a big, if you'll excuse me. The big is, the insurance on this whole building is probably the biggest component of your monthly assessment. You insure, you get a condo owner's policy, which is just like a renter's policy who's renting an apartment. That policy just insures your cabinets, your own clothes and your furniture. But as far as the unit, it may insure your appliances and it may insure your kitchen cabinets and stuff like that. But it does not insure you when the whole building burns down. Or for citizens insurance against a hurricane blowing the whole thing down or a flood taking the whole building away. That's one big policy on the entire building, purchased by the association, that you pay 5% of. And that's a huge part of your assessment, is insurance. Same token, fortunately, the policy you're gonna buy in just your unit is a lot cheaper, because you're paying it over here in the assessment for the whole building when the whole building goes away. Insurance is big, yeah. Yes, sir.
Two questions. For like a novice developer, how difficult is it, or what is the process to actually get that declaration of condominium approved?
Well, you have to send it into Tallahassee and have them approve the whole thing. It used to take 2 months. I just don't know. In addition, you're going to pay a lawyer. This is not a do-it-yourself. You're going to pay a lawyer to write this declaration for you. And the surveyor is going to have a lot to do with it, with all the surveys that he attaches. And then lawyers who specialize in this kind of stuff. And then they have to send it into the division in Tallahassee, the Division of Condominiums, and it has to approve all this stuff before you can sell a unit.
Are there certain
And then you record it.
Are there certain requirements that you need to?
Oh, absolutely. The statutes go on about 5 pages, I think, on what has to be in the declaration. And then plus whatever else. You know, yeah, you have to have the size of the units, you have to have who's gonna be the association to manage it, you have to have where's your property, you know, all this stuff that we talked. The stuff that I told you was in a declaration is that much of this total. It's all gonna be in there, or the division won't approve it. And then it gets recorded, but then you can examine it in the public record. But they won't let the developer. There are different stages. They'll let him take deposits on contracts with a little beginning approval, but they won't let him take final big deposits until there are different levels of approvals, and it's administrative law gone amok. The stuff that a developer has to go through with a division to get one of these approved.
Last I heard, it's like 2 to 4 months.
Is that what you hear now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, once a developer, I guess, turns his last unit, you know, he was on the board and he resigns from his position. I mean, how long of a period is he liable for like building construction himself?
I think it's like 10 or 15 years, right?
They keep changing it.
Well, that 558 claims, so when you turn it over, the first thing the board's gonna do is they're gonna hire their own lawyers and their own inspectors to come in and see if there's any construction deficiencies. So they could serve
Before he
notice
gets
to the
off the
developer on a 558 saying, hey, I have a latent deficiency for which I thought I was getting a whole system, and they have to come and remedy it, but the liability for the contractor is like 15 years. And for the
There's
developer,
huge areas of regulations of how, and there are any number of schemes that developers use to try to shift that obligation to somebody else. Yeah, they say, oh, I didn't build it. Here, go after the contractor. Go after GE, that's who put in all the appliances, you know. But the point is, that's heavily regulated by statute and by case laws and by developers trying to find ways to get out of it. And it's interesting, there are even warranties when a developer buys his 20-year-old apartment building and converts it to a condo. He didn't even build it. You know, he got it inspected and all. But the point is, he has to have some developer obligation because the division says so to the first purchaser and for a certain period. It's obviously, it's much less if it's a conversion, because a conversion could be a 40-year-old building. But he has to get roof reports and attach, for example, he has to get a roof inspection report on a conversion and attach that to the declaration and the prospectus, so that every purchase owner knows how old is that roof. And that maybe there's going to be a special assessment the year the developer leaves and I'm on the hook for it. You know, that's the kind of things that you're supposed to think through when you buy any condominium unit, and also when you buy a conversion. Okay, I want to shift to co-ops. A co-op looks just like this too. It's a 20-unit apartment building, but it's a co-op, a cooperative. And all we're talking about here is a different legal structure of how, in these two cases, what are your rights to your unit? Now here's what's real different in a co-op. In a co-op, a developer goes out and finds a building, or he builds one. Either way, the building, either he built it or he found one. He forms a corporation to own the building. And that's who owns the whole building forevermore, is the cooperative corporation. That's what it's called, the cooperative corporation. Now, when a unit owner comes along, rather than buying a unit, he buys some stock in that corporation. When you purchase a cooperative apartment, you buy stock in the corporation that owns the building. You're a stockholder now in the corporation that owns the building. And you get what's called a proprietary lease to your apartment. That's a lease from that corporation. Remember, we got a We got a corporation, a co-op corporation is gonna own the whole place, all the apartments, all the everything. And is gonna continue to own. You buy a unit, so to speak, I wanna be in this place right here, you're gonna get stock in the corporation that's gonna continue to own the unit. And you get what's called a proprietary lease, and that's the corporation leases to you as a tenant apartment 101. And that's what gives you the right to sole occupancy of apartment 101, but you don't really own it.
Is there a time limit on the lease?
It's, I think they're 99 years.
Oh.
What is the meaning of that type of,
What's the meaning of it?
I mean, if I wanna buy something, I'd rather at least own it, I mean, to lease it, it's like,
They're cheaper.
But this
but I mean,
building
like, what is the benefit of that?
You get more
We'll
for-
compare them in a minute, but here's what I'm getting at. You see this building sitting on the ocean in the perfect spot for you. I love this, I really wanna be there. Well, you don't get to decide whether it's a condo or a co-op. That was decided 30 years ago when the guy built it. So, if you don't like what I told you here, you don't buy that building. But you don't get to decide it.
So what's the
This is, I mean, you can say, I'm only gonna look at condos. So maybe that building won't be eligible.
But I mean,
A lot of people like co-ops better.
yeah, that's what I'm like, what would be the benefit for me to get that? I mean, there must be something good about it. I mean,
Yeah.
if people do it, are they cheaper, are they giving it away, I mean,
Usually they're a little cheaper, because they're harder to finance. It's very hard to get a mortgage on your own unit in a co-op.
It's usually
But-
cash.
If you will bear with me for a minute, I'd like to finish explaining to you what it is, and then we'll talk about how it's different from a condo. What's important to know is that the developer, when he built it or bought it and formed this corporation has one big fat mortgage on the whole building. You're not gonna get a mortgage on your unit. You can, but it ain't easy. So that, when you pay your share of the assessments, you're paying a share of this mortgage. So is he. So is he.
Where you pay the
But
rent.
it's one big mortgage on the whole building. And therefore, the consequences, when he doesn't pay his share, and he didn't pay his share, but that mortgage payment is due this month, can be pretty severe. That's a disadvantage. There's gonna be one mortgage given by the corporation on the entire building, or two mortgages, or three mortgages. But the important thing is, you don't have your own mortgage to decide whether to make the payment or not. And you're dependent on everybody else to pay their share, and if they don't, and these mortgages doesn't get paid, well, you know, they foreclose, they take the whole building. You're out. But it wasn't just you and your mortgage on your unit. Now, that same concept applies a little bit if we flip back into condos for a minute. It doesn't apply to your mortgage, but you're still in a condominium, you're subject to the same issues. If the other guys don't pay their maintenance assessments, you got a problem. If the other guys don't pay their special assessments, you got a problem merely because the association is gonna run out of money and it can't replace the roof. So it's the same kind of concept, except that in a co-op, because it's co-op, building has all the same issues. I mean, it's gotta pay the parking, it's gotta repair the roof, it's gotta take care of the swimming pool, it's gotta do all this stuff. But the point is, in addition, in a co-op, you don't have your own mortgage, and you gotta worry about this mortgage. Now, here's what's kinda cool. So 30 years from now, this mortgage is paid off. Okay? There's no mortgage anymore, 30 years. But what that also means is, when you do a deal, it's gotta be all cash, because there ain't any mortgage. You ain't getting a mortgage on your unit. And if, for example, I'm not even doing the example. The point is, obviously, if you bought into this building, you would subtract from the price you would pay your kind of share of the mortgage, you know, because there ain't that much equity. When the mortgage is all gone, the equity is built in every person's unit, so to speak. but then the prices go up and you usually end up paying cash. It's about the only mortgage you can give is what we're gonna call a purchase money mortgage that we're gonna talk about later, where the guy who sells you this gives you a mortgage. But it's very hard to go to a bank and get your own mortgage on your own unit. That's a negative of a co-op.
So what if somebody, like you said, there is a mortgage, right? And everybody's paying a mortgage. There is
Everybody has to pay their payment share.
Yeah, like I said, in 30 years,
Maybe gone.
okay, so now I wanna sell my unit, somebody comes and
Yeah.
buy my unit.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna sell it for whatever, so the money's mine, and the person that is gonna come in is just gonna pay the regular association.
They're gonna pay you.
Their
They're gonna pay you, and here's what you're gonna give them. You're gonna give them your stock, and the corporation is gonna cancel your proprietary lease, and is gonna give a new proprietary lease to your buyer. That's what happens. At least real estate taxes have now been separated. They didn't used to be. Used to be real estate taxes were another gorilla out here, just like the mortgage. That we had one real estate tax on the whole building and we all had to kick in. Now the property appraiser will send you a separate bill on your unit. Because remember, you're not getting a recorded deed here. This stuff's not a record. In the public records, when you bought a condo, you got a recorded deed to your unit. There's no public record of who owns the stock. There's no public record of who has a proprietary lease. You go down and apply to the property appraiser and say, hey, it's me now, send the bill to me. But the point is, you don't record something. When you sold to your buyer, all that happened was we reissued some stock and we reissued a lease, and you don't record any of that stuff, usually. Unless you want a title policy, and then, yeah. But that's a co-op.
How do they assess the tax after the mortgage has been paid off?
I would imagine, well, how do you assess the tax?
No, not the tax, the stock, the stock.
Well,
That
the stock, what you pay for the stock is really what this guy sells his unit for. It's the purchase price. The stock is what you get for your purchase price. So if it were 100 grand, the stock's worth 100. You know, if it's 50 grand, well, the stock's only worth 50. But the point is, a certain number of shares. The corporation, a corporation here, let's say that corporation only had 100 shares of stock. Okay? Well, then the unit owner here every unit owner gets 5 shares, right? So what you'd really be selling is, when you sell your unit, you'd be giving this guy your 5 shares.
Yeah, but my point is, once a mortgage has been paid off, there's
Yeah.
increased value, so how?
Theoretically, just like your value of your unit goes up, the more your unit is worth, the more your 5 shares of stock is worth.
So will your stock go up proportionately?
Sure. As the mortgage goes down, yeah. But realistically, it's not like you can sell me your stock and I don't get the unit. There's no market for your stock other than somebody who wants to buy your unit, you know. Okay, now, the differences between them, we've touched on a couple, but the biggest problem is the mortgage. The other problem is trying to sell a co-op compared to a condo. It's just much more complicated. And understand that we talked about a proprietary lease. Let me tell you what a proprietary lease is. Under a proprietary lease, you're not really paying rent for the right to use your unit like you do under a regular lease, because you're one of the owners. Why would I charge me rent? But what you are paying is these same type assessments. So your rent under a proprietary lease, the rent under a proprietary lease, proprietary means ownership. We're giving a lease to the real owner of the unit. He's a proprietor. So he's got 5% of the stock. Why would he charge himself rent? But what the real rent is the expenses, is the operating expenses. That's how they collect operating expenses in a co-op, is because the proprietary lease says you'll pay your share of the expenses of the rent. Now, those are really the differences. I want to talk about 2 more quickies, and we're going to get this done because I'm going to finish this chapter. Anybody has to go? See you. I want to talk about timeshares. Timeshare condominiums They're condominiums in Florida, but they're set up all different ways around the country. Timeshare is where you buy weeks. Does everybody know what a timeshare is? I mean, I don't need to tell you.
Yes.
Timeshare condo, you buy weeks. You buy weeks 7 and 8
Right.
in this unit. And they get traded on the internet, and you can buy them on eBay, and I mean, it's like swapping weeks on a vacation resort. But timeshares in Florida are a condominium unit. This unit, ownership, is divided into 52 people, 52 weeks. So there really are sort of like 52 owners of this unit. Each get to stay there a week, each pay your share of the expenses, etc. That's a timeshare. Timeshares have a real negative rap because they were marketed badly and lots of people got screwed. And today you can buy them on eBay for $0.
Really?
What they're looking for, somebody to kick in. We got all these expenses with 52 owners. We need people putting in the money to pay for this thing. And people trade weeks. I know a lady that owns 7 timeshares in different places around the country. She's never even been to any of those 7. She bought them on eBay for $0. But she trades the weeks for places she wants to. You know, this is all over the internet. Tools to trade these weeks and everything. But somebody's got to pay the expenses of that thing. And it's the owner of weeks 2 and 3. You know, he can either go ahead and stay there, or he can sell his weeks, or he can trade his weeks for something else. That's a timeshare in Florida condominium. Now there's one more concept that I want to talk to you about. And this is on the one hand saying I'm not going to cover it, but I am to this extent because you got to know about it. Securities. Securities means, you know, like investments, like stock, like the SEC regulates you. Okay, here's the concept, and this applies to condominiums. If you offer to sell a condominium, like a developer offers to sell a condominium, and that's why this is here, with, I'll manage it for you, I'll put it in a rental pool for you, and I'll collect the income. You don't have to come at all. You buy this unit, and I'll handle it. I'll lease it out, I'll collect the income, I'll run it like a motel, I'll send you the money. You're going to be a gazillionaire because you bought this unit. That's an investment contract. That's a very important word. If condominiums, or any property for that matter, but condominiums are very susceptible to it, as are timeshares, are marketed as an investment contract, then they're going to be regulated by the Securities Exchange Commission of the federal government, and every state likewise regulates securities and investment contracts in their own state. In their own state, they're called blue sky laws, because the developer promised nothing but blue skies. This is going to be great. That's real familiar, I'm sure. If you do that, and you don't register your securities as required, the SEC will not only shut down your project, but they'll probably throw you in jail. But people just keep doing it. Now, the materials, here's what I want to say to you. If you ever even contemplate doing that, you go get a securities lawyer. The materials want to go on and tell you all the wonderful exemptions, and here's the way you can do this without violating the securities laws. I wouldn't read these 4 pages in the book and then think you could go out and do this.
Which one is this?
I don't know, end of chapter 6.
No, I mean, which 4 pages? Oh, you just say don't read.
Last 4 pages of the chapter, as I recall, talk about this.
So I have a question for you then.
exemptions.
Yeah, they talk
I work for a guy.
Well, there are interstate exemptions, there are limited, private sale exemptions, there are all kinds of exemptions.
Yeah, we sell a lot to Blackstone.
I'm sorry?
We'll securitize the different assets and he'll then sell to Blackstone
Okay,
with the equivalent of AAA rated tenants in
Okay.
place, multifamily buildings. So you don't need your Series 7 or whatever for that, because essentially you're selling the asset. I'm partaking in some real estate private equity, correct? Because it's not publicly traded.
Candidly, this is kind of way beyond the concept of what we're trying to do here. We're talking about a developer build a 20-unit condo, and does he market them as an investment contract, or does he just sell units? If he markets them an investment contract, you're
Right,
selling a
that's- he's not
security,
flipping the papers.
and you have to register. What I'm saying to you is, if you even contemplate doing that, get a securities lawyer, or you're gonna end up in jail, and don't rely on the book telling you, here's 2 or 3 ways to get out of this. In the materials, out of interest, they mention the Howie case, Howey. I want to tell you about the Howie case for 30 seconds because it comes from Florida. And it is the most famous test that the SEC still uses today, like 30 or 40 years later, of what is an investment contract. Some slick bought a bunch of orange groves up around Ocala and marketed them to everybody, saying, I'm just selling you a deed to real estate. How'd you like to buy 5 acres with orange trees on it? Just selling real estate. But I'll manage it for you, I'll get the fruit picked, I'll sell your fruit, I'll fertilize it, you'll make a bundle. He's not just selling real estate anymore. He's selling a security. Securities are regulated by the Securities Exchange Commission. All he said was, I'm gonna give you a deed to 5 acres. Isn't this cool? But I'll do all this other stuff for you. And it's not like just buying something that you're gonna live there. This is like, I'm gonna run a business for you. It's very easy to trip over that with condominiums. And even with condominiums, for example, the Marriott Hotel that we talked about that's on top of Beach Place. Those units are owned by investors and they're all in a rental pool, and Marriott manages them and leases them and everything. They know it's a security. They prepared a prospectus and they sold it just like a security. That's all cool if you do it right. But that costs tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees and filing fees with the SEC. And it's time consuming, it's accounting fees, you know, you get audited by Ernst & Young, and I mean, you gotta, you know, it's.
You gotta comply.
I'm sorry?
You gotta comply.
Absolutely. And if you do, you're fine. But you don't want to do one of your own and start saying, geez, I can't sell the units. What if I tell somebody I'll manage it for you? Right away, the word manager, investment contract, security, don't do it.
So essentially, it's only if it's an active managed asset.
Read the Howie case, that'll tell you that. Howie case
I already have it.
is the classic test for, and they differentiate in there, you know? If you hadn't sold the fruit for the guy, but you had to sell your own fruit, maybe not, you know? Any event, same thing with a condo. That's it, that's the end of this chapter. Anybody, yes, sir?
I have a question on the co-op, I'm still a little confused.
Everybody's free to go, we're done. Next week, whatever the syllabus says will be the 3 chapters we'll do. And, I'm sorry, I will answer your question. 7, 8, and 9, chapter 7, 8, and 9, 2 of them are leases, and I'm gonna send you the lease to look at. And we'll talk about it. Yes, sir?
So the developer holds stock on the property itself, or?
I'm sorry, co-op?
On the co-op, yeah, does the developer keep stock, or how does he build this profit?
Well, ultimately, when he sold all the units, he sold all the stock. When he formed the corporation, it had 100 shares of stock. He owns it all. He sells 5% to this guy who gets that unit, he sells 5%. But he said he sold all the stock.
So where are they building the profit? Is it?
Well, this water price he puts on the stock. You know, if he bought this building for $500,000, put in the corporation, and he sold all the stock for $750,000, he made $150,000. He didn't get deeds of the building, but he sold all the stock, and all adds up to a profit above what he did. Well, yeah, you're right, they mortgage on there.
How you turn this off?
Absolutely, by each tenant. Well, he's gotta be making